With the Premier League getting underway between Manchester United and Fulham in Old Trafford on Friday night, Arsenal get our season underway in the Premier League on Saturday in a kickoff against Wolves at home, and this will be our return to the Premier League since that 2-1 heartbreaking win against Everton on the final day, where it was so close yet so far away that we could finally get our hands on a Premier League title for the first time in 2 decades. In this video, I don't want to necessarily assess the upcoming game, that'll be for tomorrow's video, but in this video, I want to focus on the full season ahead of us. What would constitute a successful season? What are the minimum requirements in each competition from the club? And is this a do or die season for Arsenal, like many rival fans have been saying it is? Well, that's what we're talking about today. So what's going on, everyone? You are listening to Gunner Central here. I hope you're all doing well. Please be sure to like the video, subscribe if you haven't already, and let's get into it. Now, the first thing, the most important competition, I'm sure every Arsenal fan will agree, as important as the Champions League is, nothing is as important as the Premier League this season and last season. Nothing was as important as the Premier League, and it remains the same from last season. We have to make sure that we can get ourselves as close to winning the Premier League as possible. Would I take another second place finish? No, I just wouldn't take that. Simple as that. I know we've been getting better season after season in the Premier League, and as long as we can show more progression from last season to this season in the Premier League in terms of points tally, domination, all of that included, if we can show more progression, if we can show we're a better team than we were last season, even if we finish second, I will maybe take that. But of course, I want to get my hands on the Premier League. I'm sure all of you will agree. I'm tired of City winning the Premier League. This could be their 4th in a row if they win it again this year. And if we do improve on last season's Premier League results, well then I find it very hard. I find it very difficult to see a way in which Man City win the Premier League. If we can again be dominant in our top 6 games, whether we're home or away, if we can be dominant against weaker teams and win by large amounts, well then I don't see how we don't win the Premier League. We just have to be consistent. We can't afford any dips in form. And going up against the Goliath that is Manchester City, we have to make sure that we can do everything in our power to get our hands on that Premier League trophy. To me, that's the most important thing. I couldn't care less about the Carabao Cup, FA Cup and Champions League. This season, if we don't win anything but the Premier League, that to me will be one of the most successful seasons in the last 20 years we've had. Of course, winning trophies are nice. Winning the Carabao Cup would be nice. Winning the FA Cup would be nice. Of course, winning the Champions League would be absolutely awesome. But nothing is as important this season as the Premier League. Simple as that. To me, the most important thing is we have to progress. We have to prove that we were a better team in the Premier League this season than we were last. And if we can do that, I struggle to see how we don't win the Premier League. But even if we do that, if we improve and we don't win the Premier League, I would be happy to take that. I wouldn't be absolutely thrilled. I'd still like to win the Premier League. But worst case scenario, we finish second again, but we're a much better team than we were last year. More consistent, higher points tally, higher goal difference. So then you can't really complain, but I want to win the Premier League desperately. And now onto the Champions League. And for those that don't know, the Champions League this season will have a slightly different format in the group stage as it was last season. There's no groups. It's kind of going to be a league format. I believe that means 2 extra games in the quote-unquote group stage / league play area, which isn't great, especially for a team like us that we're not necessarily the deepest team in the world. We're fairly deep, especially defensively, but I mean, we're not the deepest team in the world. We're far from it. So those 2 extra Champions League games won't necessarily be great. Plus, it's more likely now in the group stage / league play time, they will be playing much better and bigger teams, which I mean isn't the end of the world. It is the Champions League. That's what you get for playing in the Champions League. I'm not complaining about that at all. But with us having to balance now the Premier League, which I want to be better in, plus having to add in 2 more Champions League games, it's going to be fairly difficult. But honestly, I think the same as last season, if we can just get to the semi-final or the quarterfinals of the Champions League, as well as go very far in the league, I don't really have any area to complain. Of course, like I said, I want to win everything. That's awesome. If we can win the quadruple, that'd be awesome, but it's just not realistic. We have to prioritize, and right now for me, my priority is the Premier League. In the Champions League, I still want to get far again, quarterfinals or semi-finals, but I won't be tripping if again we get knocked out in the semis. It won't really hurt me that much. Of course it will, because it'll be fairly close, but let's say we finish in the semi-finals of the Champions League, but we win the Premier League. Well, I'm not really going to lose much sleep about the Champions League this time around. Maybe next season we can talk about the Champions League being a priority, but to me right now in this project, we have to get ourselves a Premier League trophy. That is paramount. So to me, as long as we can put in a good performance in the Champions League, go reasonably far, be respectable in the Champions League, well then I'll take that for this season. Now into the FA Cup and the Carabao Cup. For me, the Carabao Cup, just play youngsters. If we get knocked out early, we get knocked out early. Of course, we need to win a trophy. We're in that part of the project where we haven't won a trophy for a fair fair amount of time now, Community Shield not included of course, but with us trying to focus on the Premier League and the Champions League having more games now, it's not really important to go far in the Carabao Cup. And when you have guys like Lewis Skelly and Wanyeri in your squad, well then playing the Carabao Cup, letting those guys play in the Carabao Cup, well that's pretty important as well. Of course, I would like to go far if we get to the final or the semi-final of the Carabao Cup. We'll then play our best team and try and win it, of course. But in the beginning stages, just play your reserves, play your backups, let them get some game time. And if we can go far, we can go far. If we can't, we can't. It is what it is. I'm not really going to lose sleep about that. And then the last one, the FA Cup. I want to be slightly more focused in the FA Cup than we were last season. Of course, we got knocked out the first game we played, losing to Liverpool. But it won't really be the be-all and the end-all for me, especially if we have our backups playing in the FA Cup. Again, if we get far in the FA Cup or the Carabao Cup, well then of course we should play our best players to try win the competition outright. But really this season, all of us Arsenal fans, the main focus should be doing decently well in the Champions League, being respectable in the Champions League, but going all out, trying to do everything we can to beat Man City for the Premier League. That should be our only focus, our only goal right now. And again, if we can get far in other competitions while we're doing that, well then great, let's try and win those competitions. But if we can't, but we can still get far in the Premier League, that's all that really matters to me this season.